Hello, welcome to my new channel that I'm making. If you're new, hope you stick around, subscribe. My name is Carlos Montes. I'm an artist. I am a photographer, visionaire. I have other channels where I try to delve into those subjects. I also do like a little bit of little comedy skits. So I have other YouTube channels. That's kind of like I do what kind of interests me. But they don't do like deep down what I've always wanted to do was do like serious things or serious subjects, things that interest me. And this channel will kind of delve into that. And I thought, what better way to jump into this sort of platform, or this sort of niche per se, this genre, than one of the most hotly contested subjects, the beginning of the universe. We can start by how many theories there are on how the universe got started, pretty much. We got, the common ones. We got the Big Bang, we got the creator. And there's some other fantastical theories that have recently come out. There's the idea that the universe came out of a black hole, or the universe is within a black hole. And in our universe, there are black holes, and within those black holes, other universes get created. That's another theory that people have put forward, and so far there hasn't been any way to prove it or disprove it, really. So, because we just don't understand how black holes work necessarily to the full extent yet. We have the expanding universe, because the universe is expanding. It's called the Big Crunch or something like that, where the universe expands and it stops, and then it comes back, it reverses. I don't know if time goes backwards. I think time would go backwards at that point, because space-time is the same thing. So time would go backwards, and then we would collapse back into a singular point, or a singular sphere, what the universe was before the Big Bang, and then explode again, and then it'll start all over, and it'll just endless cycles, pretty much. I come here to give you a new theory on the creation of the universe. And I have like a bunch of ideas and theories, and I have some ideas that are not really, that are more abstract, or more like, what if no one exists and you're the only person? I mean, that's a theory, quote unquote, but that's not something that you can contest. And maybe I would do some of those, but you would be able to tell by the way, like I do, like my thinking, you would be able to tell those that are like that and those that are like, we come out of a black hole, like the universe isn't a black hole, because the one in the black hole, those are suggested by scientists themselves. So the things that I usually gravitate towards are things that I can explain scientifically, you know what I mean? And this one is one of those. I guess you would have to have some knowledge of quantum physics. Is one of the new studies that has recently come out in last 30 years. Quantum physics, if you don't know much about it, pretty much boils down to, at the macro scale, our consensus or our conception of reality kind of falls apart. In their kind of space, time, and just laws of physics don't apply. And then some other weird little things start to pop up or happen. If you don't know much about it, I would suggest you do some research on it. I would suggest you go towards the double slit experiment, which is an insane thing they did, crazy thing. It's not, yeah, they did it, but it's kind of like it was always there. So that Schrodinger's cat, if you don't know what that is, that's kind of like because quantum physics doesn't work on big objects. It only works at the macro scale, which is like the smallest scale you can possibly get. That's the only place where it works. Schrodinger's cat is kind of like a what would I call that? A mental experiment of how you can simplify what's happening. Schrodinger's cat is put a cat in a box, and if you're not looking at it, the cat is neither dead or alive. And it can be either they're both or they're neither. I think they are neither alive or dead. They're in a state of superposition is what they call it. Superposition is a state of being neither here or there. And that's kind of the backbone of my theory. There's another thing with quantum physics is called quantum entanglement, which is you can entangle two objects. I don't know how they do it. I think they make them interact with each other or something, and change their properties with each other or something like that. And this is one of the weirdest things that has come out of it. Even Einstein famously could not come to the conclusion of accepting it. And what it is you have two particles that are entangled. You can you can do your own research on it, on how they do that, or how they came to that conclusion. But they have two particles that are entangled, and without seeing how there's, because particles can either spin up or spin down, without seeing their spin, you can have one particle here on Earth and then put another one deep in space, like 14 trillion light years in space. And those objects would be entangled, those particles will be entangled, meaning if you examine one, you would instantly know the result of the other one. So if one is up, you instantly know the other one is right. And it will be instantaneous. It's not like faster than the speed of light. It's not that it's faster than the speed of light, it's that it's instantaneous. Now, it's crazy to think that that's how the universe works, but apparently that's the conclusion of it. That's how it works. That's entanglement. For my theory, I guess superposition, I think, would be the one that mostly, encompasses what I'm trying to say. Since the quantum realm, as they call it, and the quantum physics only exist in the quantum realm, that means that quantum physics only applies to very small objects. They did experiments on the universe, or they did experiments to see how far back, because when you look in space, the further you look, the further back you go back in time, because time takes longer to get to you. And through that, they came to the conclusion that the universe is expanding. And if the universe is expanding, it had to be smaller yesterday than it was today. And if it was smaller yesterday, that means it was very small the day prior. And it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And through that, they came to the conclusion that at one point, it had to have come from somewhere. And through that, they came to the conclusion of the Big Bang. It's something interesting to think about, that they say that space is expanding at an exponential rate, meaning it's like one of those graphs. I don't know if you've seen one. It doesn't go like this, or it doesn't go like that. It goes like, ooh. It exponentially increases. So the space is expanding at an exponential rate. And so something interesting to think about that is like a sidetrack. If today, have you ever felt too big, or have you ever felt like you were really big or whatever? Something interesting, if space is expanding at an exponential rate, that means that what you are today will be significantly smaller in size of what you're going to be tomorrow. So today you're like this, right? Tomorrow or yesterday you must have been small. And it's a hard thing to think about, because I've never heard, I haven't heard people think about this yet. I've seen countless videos on quantum physics and all of these videos, but they never explain that. They always forget to mention that part. If all of space is expanding, meaning all of space isn't just outside. Space is everything. It's everything. It's expanding. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. That means that what you would be like this, who knows how long ago, right? In comparison, you're like a building in comparison. and people have not been able or have not mentioned that. And I might be wrong, but I think that's one of the facts of it. If space is expanding, and space is everywhere, because it's time, space time is everywhere. That means you are expanding. That means you are way bigger than you were minutes ago. Just a little sidetrack. So the universe must have been small at one point. It must have been extremely small. If it was extremely small, they say it was like smaller than the size of a pinhead or whatever, smaller than the size of an atom. It was small. I think even smaller than a particle, smaller than a quark. Who knows how small? But it was small, extremely small. I think they say it's like, yeah, it's really small. It's smaller than an atom. So if it's smaller than an atom, that means that quantum physics applies to it. And remember, something that they were just explaining, at the creation of the Big Bang, time itself was created. So while inside this mini universe sphere, it was only basic forces, the most simple things or basic facts of the universe. Time didn't exist within that. It was literally, you can say, the tiny universe existed for 6 days. No, it was literally just there. Time didn't exist. When it exploded, time came into existence as did space, because they are intrinsically connected, the same as as space expanded, so did time. So you got to remember that. So in this very small object, quantum physics is what governs it, because it's a very small object. So going back to the superposition, since in superposition of very small objects, you don't know which is what until you observe it. And when you observe it, I think they call it, observe it, you're collapsing what they call a probability wave. This is that double slit experiment, because particles are not particles when they're not being observed. When particles are not being observed, they are a wave, not like ripples, but it's a ripple wave of probability, meaning they can either be here or there or there or there. It's not a singular one. When they are being observed, it collapses the probability wave instantaneously, and then you can pinpoint where that particle is. But before that, it's a wave. You don't know where it can. You only know where it can be, but you don't know where it is. So, in the universe in this state, I believe it's in that superposition state where it is neither here nor there. It is just probability. It's a probability of this thing existing or not existing. And I think that's where that is where my theory comes in. Now, I'm not a scientist, nor have I spoken to scientists or physicists about this. And if you do have some knowledge, or you are a professor or have contact with a professor, you can ask him about it. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But this is where my theory comes in. In this state of superposition, the universe had two paths. One path would have been creation. In this creation, or non-creation, non-existence, pretty much. So non-existence multiplied by 0, because it's non-existence, is 0. So the universe isn't created. That's that up or down spin of a particle. You have two options. This is what I think that the superposition came down to: existence or non-existence. A superposition of both, meaning it's neither existing and not existing, or non-existent. It's neither. And then existence came, which is a probability, because it's neither existing or not existent. And that, that's kind of like impossible, but it's both at the same time. But non-existence is like non-existence. But existence is a probability, and it's all probability at this point. Universe explodes in probability, continues going. It's kind of like I don't know if you ever seen one of these things where, I don't know what they call it, like trees or something, where you go in one path and then you go like yes or no, you go like yes, and then you go here and go yes or no, you go no, you go yes or no, you go yes, and it just keeps going. That's where the probability wave started, in a way, where it's just probability of this happening, probability of that happened, and it continued. If it said no, 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 then it would have just been no, 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 right? If in one said the universe is created, yes, life exists, no, or planets are created, yes, life exists, no, then it's just nothing. Because I think that matter itself it's not conscious, right? That, I mean, we don't know yet, but like a rock isn't conscious. If you look at it, there's nothing that is intrinsically alive about it. It's a rock. So, and it's because it's all probability. It's not a physical object yet. It's all probability of this object. So it's not touching anything because it's still all probability. You know what I mean? But in the one, on all of those probabilities, in the one that created existence or created life, the universe creates the sun and the moons and the planets, and within that there's a planet that has rivers, and within that the probability of life coming up, and then with that the dinosaurs, etc., etc. I think that's where you have your smoking gun, I would like to think. Now, I don't know what would have collapsed this supposed probability function wave. Could have been a fish, or it could have been a dinosaur. It could have been something more complex that's aware of itself. Because I think what it boils down to is being self-aware. It's being aware of the universe, not in the sense of, oh, that touched me, react. Because that can be boiled down to a rock hitting a rock, and then it just reacts by moving. It's just a more complex version of a rock reacting. You hit a dinosaur, it moves, reacts. So we don't know. So far, we don't know if an animal's consciousness is complex enough to be self-aware at those stages, because we just don't know. We do know other animals in our life are conscious, like I think monkeys are, elephants, dolphins. Whichever of those animals, or even us, and maybe it was just us, became conscious, I think that's what collapsed the probability wave. Why do I say that? If it's all probability, how can it collapse it if it can't necessarily interact with physical matter because it doesn't exist yet? Well, I think it's because consciousness separates itself from the physical realm into an abstract outside realm. What I mean by this, like, for example, you have ideas, right? You have an idea, like you're like, I'm gonna get up and get a cup of water. You have created a scenario in your head that doesn't exist. It's not real. It's just an imagination. It's just an idea. And then you get up and you get that glass of water. Now maybe you didn't do it exactly like you imagined it, but you have created an idea which you based on reality, which then became real. I think that's what separates an inanimate object with a conscious being, and I think that's what collapsed the wave. Now, there's theories like saying, no one's alive or no one exists. The only person that exists is you, because that's, I think therefore I am type deal. If it is the case, and it's you, for example, you're watching this video, and it's you, the only conscious being in this whole universe. You're the only conscious being. We're all just plainless robots, no real consciousness. We just like to say that we have consciousness, but no one actually does. Only you do. If you came to existence, or like your consciousness came to existence literally right now, then you would collapse that wave probability right then. And you would say, but I remember what happened yesterday. Well, because of entanglement and superposition, it would reverberate. You collapsing the wave function would reverberate across space-time and instantly create the universe, and come into present, meaning the universe didn't exist yesterday, right? The universe didn't exist yesterday, but you have a probability memory of it existing because it was all probability until you snapped into reality, but now it exists. And it's weird to think about, but it makes sense. It all came into existence right now, and you still have the memory of yesterday, even though it didn't exist yesterday. You're just now existing just now. And so there, yeah, that's it. It's kind of like the hand that draws itself, pretty much. That's what it kind of is. It's like the idea that created itself in a way. It's like you have an idea that you exist, and that idea of you existing made you exist, which and then made you have the idea of existing in the first place. It's like a reverberating conscience loop or something. So yeah, that's my theory. I don't know what you could call it. Quantum existence or quantum Big Bang or quantum reality. I don't know how you could explain it. But yeah, that's my theory. If you think I'm right, you can tell me. If you think I'm wrong, you can explain it, I guess. Have access to a professor, you want to ask them, and you can come here and tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. It's just a theory. It's an interesting, fun theory. That's why I wanted to say it out here, because I've seen so many videos on quantum physics, and I don't think anyone has talked about that. They've never talked about, that idea that you were minuscule yesterday, now you're huge because space is expanding at an exponential rate, and space is everywhere. I never heard people talk about that. Or because people talk about interesting things, like Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about what was he talking? Oh, that we come from the stars, and this fantastical romantic idea that we are star dust that are now here examining the universe. So yeah, if you like this, I'm going to be talking about other things that involve this sort of subject, subjects that are more interesting, more, not like serious or whatever, but a little bit more on that spectrum. Like I said, I have other things that I like doing, like I do like funny YouTube videos. I even got one that kind of went popular, kind of viral. But I kind of want to do this. I like doing this a little bit more, to be honest. If you have any subjects you want to talk about, like I like interesting things, like there's so many things. I like talking about aliens, UFOs. I like that. There's this peculiar figure that appears in people's dreams. I don't know if you ever heard of that. I like talking about that sort of thing. I like science, talking about physics, or exploring psychology. I love psychology, talking about like psychopaths and cultism type deal. All the interesting subjects that aren't necessarily on themselves funny, or like you can make a movie about. Those subjects I can cover right here. And if you're like me, give this video a like to show me you like it, and subscribe for more similar content. Yeah, stay tuned. I hope you do like it. I hope you do subscribe. I highly suggest it. And if you want to contribute to the channel that I'm trying to build up, you can tell me some ideas you want me to cover, things that you find interesting or you think it would be interesting subjects, or things that you don't even know yourself and you want someone to be like, this is what I found. There's a lot of things, like I have a friend who's like, I have people who like, very on the fringe conspiracy theories. I'll cover those too. I know like people like Alex Jones have said some crazy stuff, but even though they're crazy, and he's done a lot of crazy things, I think those are interesting. And I think in today's times, the way that's, everything's going on in today with, the virus and the lockdowns and all that, I think it's finally time that people, it's not finally time. I think it is happening, that people are like waking up, throughout life. I think most people just kind of like wither off and never really think about existence or life, how crazy this is, that we're existing. You're watching me while I watch a camera, It's, it's a crazy thing, and I think that's necessary for people to examine that or to ponder about it. I've always pondered life, and I think some people just don't ponder existence itself, and I want to help people do that, and find a little sliver of like fantasy, or like a little glimmer of light in this thing, because it can sometimes get pretty dark, pretty gray. And I think there's so much more to life. There's so many things out here that are so interesting, that I think that we owe it to ourselves to inspire ourselves to create this love for life, for whatever is happening, whatever it could be, to just stand in awe of it. you know so whatever happens, we have to enjoy it. We have to stay curious. It's one of my biggest things. Stay curious, stay weird. And if you think like me, like I said, or if you want to explore things like that, you can get more to hard reality type things, like politics. I can talk about my sort of opinion about that, I guess, or what's happening. Because I'll always talk about the grander scale of things. I won't just go like that. I'll encompass the surrounding things about it. So subscribe. Let me know how you like it, and I'll catch you in the next one.